Hello, hello, hello. So Ramon, you look fabulous, little different. And we're just keeping things a little bit exciting, a bit spicy. So the same way that we're consistently not yelling at, lovingly fussing at our learners to learn in sustainable ways, it's not really fair to have both of like Ramon and I here every single time. So Ramon is taking care of some personal errands, and I have swapped in my, I was about to say my second favorite JavaScript nerd, and that's not fair. My other favorite JavaScript, Mr.
That'll do me.
Langridge.
Hello. Jess asked me if I was available, and well, first of all, Jess asked me for a favour, and I was kind of in 2 months, but then I found out what the favour was, which means I get to spend time with all of you watching this, which is great. So absolutely 100%.
Because when I asked him to cat sit, he was just like, "Oh, I'm
No,
busy."
no,
Yeah.
no, absolutely not.
So we are going to have the softest, chillest time, and we're going to be starting on step 6 of this. I love how everybody's like, "Yeah, Stuart." When I'm not here, there's no like, "Yeah, where's Jess?" It's tragic. So we're going to start from step 6, just so we can go a little quick. And it looks like we've got our HTML pre-written for us. Love it, love it, love it. We've got some CSS pre-written for us. And we've got some variables. So just to guess, this is going to be the value of this input box.
Nope.
No,
It is a pointer to that input box itself, not the
itself.
value within it.
Ugh.
Document.getElementById by ID gets an element from your page.
I was just testing you.
And we don't have to guess. We can check. I mean, so it's getting the element with ID number dash input, which is in index.html, which we can go and look at if we want to find out what it's actually getting.
Oop. Just squishing everywhere. So
Moving
number
around.
/ input. Where are you? Oh, here we go.
And you can see there on line 18, it's ID number dash input, and so document.getElement by ID number dash input is what that gets.
Very chill. So we've got const number input, which is this number, const convert button, which is going to be this button, and const result, which is going to be this result box.
Seems plausible. And again, if you want to check them all in the HTML, you can do, but that seems like a reasonable guess.
Yeah. And here we've got one of those fancy arrow functions, and it's defined as const check user input, and it's going to console log number input dot value. So I think it's going to console log this.
Whatever you've put in there, yes.
And we've got an event listener for the convert button. That makes sense.
For the click event on the convert button.
Yes.
There are other events which elements can generate, but
We learned about them yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one you'll almost always use on a button is click. And so what should happen there is if you click on the convert button, it should fire the click event, which will trigger your handler check user input, which should then log the value.
Cool.
So we should be able to look in the console and do that.
So, one.
There it is.
Whenever an event listener is triggered by an event, the event object is created automatically. Okay, so you don't always need it like your click handler, but it can be useful to access. So first pass E as a parameter. And people were rightly freaked out about E, the same way people were freaked out about I when we first learned about loops. Pass it as a parameter to our callback function. So a function.
No,
we're in the callback function.
Yes. So
yes.
We could do this one of two ways. So the way we did it above was we defined a function with a name, and then we put the name of the function in the call to add event listener. What we're doing here is we're defining that function in line. So instead of having to put it somewhere else and give it a name and then refer to it by name, we can just put the function itself in place, which saves on a bit of typing. The thing it says there about E being a common parameter name for the event object, that parameter, when your event handler function gets called, this anonymous arrow function that we're currently defining, it gets called with a parameter. But you can call that parameter whatever you like. You don't have to call it E. You can call it anything at all. Quite often, people will use the single letter E as a variable name for event objects, like here, the thing which is passed to your callback function. But some other people will use EV or event. If you want to call it fish, you are welcome to do so. It's fine. You can call it whatever you like. It's useful to stick with the way that everyone else names these things because it makes your code readable for
To other
everybody else.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. Or to yourself 8 months from now when you'd be like, why did I call this fish? That's weird. Is it to do with fish? And the answer is no, it's an event.
So, oh, if we type a number, we'll see the number. Ooh.
So for this particular example, you want to open the browser's developer console, not and this was discussed on the Discord.
It was, but it also works in this one. It's fine.
Oh, right, does it now? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Also, I don't want to show you which browser I'm using because StreamYard prefers a browser I don't use day to day.
Okay.
So, since I want to perform an action when the enter key is the most, okay. Remove the console log and then an id statement. Wait, no, you tell me what to do. You're driving.
Well, hang on. So,
Oh.
This is we are listening to the key down event.
I don't think we've seen this yet.
That's why I'm mentioning it rather than breezing on from it. So, as mentioned, elements can fire various different events. So when you click on a button, it fires the click event, but it will also fire a mouse down and a mouse up event. In a similar way, things that you can type into fire events for when you press a key. So when you press on a key, it fires a key down event. When you let go of that key, it fires key up.
Okay,
so if you want to
like,
check whether they pressed a button, a key on the keyboard, you can listen to either key down or key up. You wouldn't want to listen to both.
Oh, because that you'd get two, one for click down and one for release click.
Yeah. So here we're listening to key down, and that event object that we get passed, so the E, we called it E, has a number of different properties, as exactly as this thing says. So did we console log E before and then look at what was in it?
We totally didn't. Did we?
So maybe we want to console.log the E and just have a look at all the stuff that's in it. Our code isn't going to pass yet because we haven't finished it. But if you just type something in there, it should log. Why is that logging to? Oh, right. So this is the is trusted thing. Yeah. So this is what I was saying about. They discussed this on the Discord that logging a whole event object doesn't seem to work in the free code camp console, but that's fine. So what the write up here is suggesting is one of the properties of the event object we were given is key. So try console logging e.key. And then press some keys in the.
Oh, so this is great because I got a 4 when I. Oh, hey, Stuart. I think that one of us is having a connection issue. And my beloved learners, is one of us breaking up a little bit weird? Hey, Stuart. Okay, only Stuart. Stuart's frozen. That's not a problem. We don't even need Stuart. We do. Let's. Oh no, that's the worst. Y'all have got me and no Stuart. Okay, in that case, I have been left unsupervised without any JavaScript adults. Let's see what's going on. So, Stuart's just told us we've got this key press event. Yeah? So, yeah, can we go over how to open the inspector console log? We absolutely can. And in order to do that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, which sounds counterintuitive. And I'm going to share it again. just to share the whole window, just so we'll be able to see it. Yeah, same thing, but we've got a browser bar. You know what? Mira is saying that I can always bring a cat for support. I'm making a bunch of weird faces because I've got a very big baby on my lap. Um, and he's just waiting to try and steal my soda. So we've got maximum chaos and everything's fine. So, oh heck, how do we open this again? Everything's fine. Ba, ba, ba. Let's get a little F12. Oh, heck. Oh, it's quite a bit of browser. That's quite a bit of everything, isn't it? Can I have a little bit less of that? I can't. Okay. I don't care about, respectfully, I don't care about what's new in the browser, in the console. Everything is fine. Everything is chill. It is F12, yeah, or right click to inspect probably would have done this. So let's try right. Atch. Right click to inspect. Will that do this as well? That seems a lot chiller. So console object keyboard event. That seems likely. That seems like something we're doing. Let's take a little bit more of that. Can I squish you? I can squish you. So here, how can Stuart, come back? Oh, Stuart, you can add yourself as well. Hello, welcome
Oh,
back.
can I? Oh, I didn't know I could add myself. Oh, sorry about that. My machine
No,
decided it had enough of doing its job and went a bit mad, but I fixed it now. Went
I
ridiculous.
mean, computers were a mistake. Is there any way I can actually trade with you? I've got a very small ongoing additional stressor here. So if I can pass you this, I'll let you type and I will refocus my energy on not cussing.
Sure. Okay. Uh,
Uh,
so how do I do that?
so if you have a browser,
Yep.
if you open, if you come
Yep.
down to the bottom, there should be a share screen option.
Oh, present. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Share
that sounds right.
screen. Fine. Whatever. I would like to do that one.
Yeah. Let's swap out
Okay.
Stuart.
So is this now looking at my screen?
We can. I can see. So, okay. Everything's fine.
Okay.
If you're sharing the window instead of the tab, you can also show us your console if you want. Nothing's wrong.
Oh, so I need to. All right. Okay. No, you're so if I do that, no, it doesn't. Okay. So I will. Oh goodness, I do apologize. Everybody, how very annoying. So let me stop sharing and then share again, but share the window.
Yeah.
So
Everything's so durably fine.
share screen, and then I want to share a window, and it is that window. There we are. Hopefully, you should be able to see a
Everything's
window.
fine.
Okay. So, bear with me. I'm still looking at step 6 here. So let me just do that. I need to console.log E in this step, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And interestingly, so that was in key down. So if we press that here, because I forgot to pass E, see, as the parameter. So if I type things in here, it's not logging the event object itself properly, but we'll get to that in the next step.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Folks are suggesting we don't have to apologize so much, but it's part of the local culture.
Jess
Isn't it?
doesn't have to apologize so much. Me, maybe not. So going back to where we got up to, I don't know how much you've gone on from here.
I mostly sort of spiraled slightly. So we had some additional technical difficulties, which were definitely not a cat.
Okay, so I will carry on from here then. So you can see here that it suggests that our E object, which we're passed, our event object, has a number of useful properties, and one of them is key. So if we console log e.key, you can see I'm pressing things on here. Now, it's not typing them in because this is a number input, and so you can't type the letter F into it. But you can see as I press letters, they still show up in here. But if I type a number, it will show up. There's a 1, there's a 2, there's a 3, and so on. So this E dot key is essentially the key that is pressed, whichever that key is. So if the interesting thing about E dot key is that it handles keys on the keyboard that aren't like a letter or a number. So to give you an example, if I press the enter key, the value of E dot key that we're logging here is the word enter. Now, I believe I should be able to type things like page down as well. I can do. And there it is, page down. And I can type page up. And I can type insert. And I get insert. The game here is to try and find a key that it doesn't know about. What happens if I press F5? I get F5. And then it refreshes the screen because I'm very silly. Okay, yes. So don't use F5 testers because F5 refreshes your browser. Useful pro tip for you. But you can see there that when we were looking at the value of E dot key, it's whatever key you pressed in here. Even if that key doesn't show up in this number input, it still is passed to the key down event handler because a key went down and therefore it counts. So in here, what this is suggesting that we do, we want to check if E dot key is the string.
I got it. So I think I might type, and I'm so excited to be wrong, if smooth babies, and inside my smooth babies, I want E3 equals enter.
So you want in here what?
E equals. Ramon calls it 3 equals, which I find charming, and I'm not sure if that's the official way to say it. So like then it's the string enter. So I need some quotation marks, either single or double. I'm not fussed.
Oh, spell?
I mean, spelling's highly overrated. While I don't know if 3 equals is official, we do know that curly babies are definitely the official way to say curly braces. And here we're going to say, leave the body of the if statement done. Okay, we're fine.
So before I hit control and enter, have another read through that and tell me whether you're sure that's definitely right.
Remove the console log from the statement, from the callback function, and add an if statement that checks to see if the E dot key, can I have E dot key? Because the event isn't going to be
correct. The whole event object will definitely not equal the string enter.
I love my learners because they're the gentlest way to be like, y'all, you're not doing it right. It's so sweet. Tower of Brilliance. The 3 equals is the strict equality operator. That's definitely the right way to say it. But curly braces are definitely curly babies.
3 equals is definitely a lovely name, but yes, it's called the strict equality operator. But yeah, 3 equal signs.
I think we've got a little pat coming. Yeah.
Kabosh. Congratulations, our code passes. Okay.
So here, within the if statement, we're just going to call the check user input.
Okay. And we are in the if statement here. There's the beginning of it. There's the end of it. So
just check user input with the smooth, with the parentheses, the smooth braces. So now if we enter numbers into the number and then press enter, we should see the numbers logged to console.
So I will demonstrate that while you explain to everybody why that happens. So if I type 1, 2, 3, 4 here and then press enter, we see 1, 2, 3, 4.
So we had been seeing, so when we were logging the event earlier, the key press event earlier, we were just seeing the individual numbers. The reason we're seeing these come all together, I think, is because we're saying we're waiting for the event of the enter key being pressed. And then I want you to check all of the input in this box.
Correct. Because we're calling check user input, which is our function from before, which logs out the whole value that's in here. So,
and I think,
go ahead.
I think if we put a letter in here, because we've already got some code only accepting numbers.
Well, They already have some code.
They've written the code. Yeah, we didn't do it. I mean,
So,
spiritually, it
so
belongs
if
to
we
us.
look at index.html, this input, the one that we're using with ID number input, is type equals number, which means that it only accepts numbers. You can't type a letter into it.
Okay, cool. So when we were listening for the key press event, we were seeing letters and other stuff in the console because we weren't looking at what's in the user input element, which is what we're doing now.
Correct. Yes. So when we
Wait.
press the key, a key definitely was going down, even if it was the F key, and so it fired our event. And that still is happening. If I type 90 in here, it is calling this key down function every time, but we don't do anything in this function unless the key is enter. But when we call check user input, it doesn't care what we pressed. It looks at the value which is actually in the input. So if I delete a bunch of these, and again, this function will have been called every time with e.key equal to delete, but we don't do anything. And then when I hit enter, it will go and get whatever value is currently in there. So if I press enter, we get 1, 2, 3. Some browsers, not all of them, if you're in a number input, have these little stepper things. It's called you see something's called a spin button, and they let you count up or count down by clicking. And if I click up to here 139 and then press enter, we should see it log 139 because that's the value in here, even though we
Even
never
though you
typed
didn't
that
push
in
it.
at all. And we don't.
Hey, I think if you push check your code, we've got a little green stripe and our life is fine. Our life is fine. Okay. So our convert button and number input are listening for clicks the enter. Cool. Let's finish out this function. So we want to say, so this is saying the user input type being number already does some validation because it only allows numbers and some special characters. But we want to add an if statement to say, hey, if this is an empty string. So I think you just need if number input 3 equals empty string, and then the curly braces.
Like that.
Yeah.
Well, no, we'll carry on and then we'll think about it afterwards.
And then the curly braces. Okay, so we need, what's this value property do? Is it, number input dot value?
Yeah. Now remember, number input
is the element.
Document.getElement body. It's the whole element. So that whole element will not equal 1, 2, 3 or whatever. You want the value from that element.
I'm just gonna say that Ramon's always just like, yeah, you're right, and then types the value so that I don't look silly. So
That's not how it works.
and like looking silly
because this
probably
is the kind of thing that I do all the time. I'll type something like this in and then look at it baffled and think to myself, why doesn't it work? I'm checking if number input is an empty string, but obviously number input will never be an empty string because it's an element, not even a string.
Yeah. I think if we push go, we are safe and happy, and our whole life is complete.
We are. Bosh.
Hey, so this boot camp is free, Free Code Camp is free, but Free Code Camp is also a registered nonprofit that takes donations to make this material. And this is a big thing. I know I used to say only if you've got the cash. So don't donate money you don't have. But if you do have a little bit of extra cash, donating to Free Code Camp lets them build more and more cool stuff. If you click Ask Me Later, they'll ask us later. Okay, cool. You get to talk about this because I still reject the idea of truthiness on kind of like a deep emotional level. I get that it's a thing, but I don't like it.
Now what we're looking for here is so have you explained about truthy and falsy?
We've been checking stuff for truthiness up till now, and this is the first time we're going to be looking at falsiness.
Okay.
And Ramon did explain at length, like, truthiness is a little bit different than like the Boolean true. Sometimes stuff is like mostly true in that it holds a value and that's good enough to be truthy. But I just laid down on the floor and thought about my life and my choices.
um, yeah. So what this is asking us to do is check whether this is falsy. Um, so as this says, falsy things are the number 0, empty strings are falsy, null is falsy, undefined is falsy. Those of you who have done some programming before, specifically Python, be aware that an empty array in JavaScript is not falsy, but in Python it is, which trips me up all the time. If you haven't done any Python programming, don't worry about it. Pretend I never said that. It's not relevant. But
You're like, Python doesn't exist. It can't hurt us.
Know what's falsy. So here, what it wants us to do is it wants us to check if it's false. And I suspect the idea behind this is that the empty string is falsy, but also the number 0 is falsy. So it's a convenient way of checking for both. So here we will go. We want to use a logical not operator to check if number input.value is falsy. So here, what we want to do is what? Yes.
If smooth braces.
Oh, hang on. No, sorry. We're not. It's not different.
Oh, we're there. Sorry. If
it.
yeah. So if number input value equal, so I think we want 2 equal signs, and we've got a question about this. So I think we want 2 equal signs because Eric asked this really, really good question. So, hey, why do sometimes we use 3 and sometimes we use 2? 3 is like, this has to exactly match what I'm talking about.
This is why it's useful to know that, as we talked about earlier, the name of it officially is the strict equality operator because it's strict. If you're comparing two things, and this is a very good example, if we're looking for falsy things, if we're comparing something with false and it's actually the digit 0, they will 2 equals equal one another. But 3 equals they won't because that's not strict.
Okay, I felt comfortable with my knowledge about this a minute ago, and then the more I think about it, the more
I'm just going to check that. Right. So does 0 3 equals false? No, it doesn't. That is
because one's a 0 and one's false.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so 3 equals is is A the exact same as B? Like, are these the exact same? Whereas 2 equals is like, hey, do these have a vibe that's roughly mostly the same thing, or a vibe that's almost definitely not this?
Yeah. So JavaScript has some tricky things about what's equal and what isn't. So if you know that you're comparing against a specific thing, then using 3 equal signs, using strict equality is a good idea. But in this particular example, we're trying to compare if it's like false. So we want 0 and we want the empty string, both of which evaluate to false to be correctly identified.
I think we can say the exclamation point equals 0 equals false.
So we could do that, but that's not the way, and that would work. Yeah. That is correct to do the goal that we have, but that's not how they've asked us to do it.
Oh, so I could just put
us to use the logical not operator.
Yeah, I could do this. Go ahead and delete both of the equal signs and the false, and just put the exclamation point in front of the number equal value. Here, that exclamation point is like a, oh yeah, nah. Oh, maybe we've lost Stuart again. Everything's fine because I feel moderately confident at this stage. So I'm in charge again. So, can y'all see that okay? So we're going to get rid of this. And I know for some folks, you've had kind of a hard time with this. I'm like 60% sure this is going to work really, really well. Stuart, I'm going to send you to jail for just a second. Everything's fine. check our code. Look at it. Look at it. We didn't need Stewart. Yeah. Yeah, we do. We do. We're going to bop on to the next challenge. Okay. Because the input type equals numbers allows for special. Oh, no. Oh, I was so sure this was going to ask us to write a what are the oh no, it's my least favorite thing in programming. Oh, regex. I thought this was going to ask for a regex, but we could just parse int, which changes a string into a number. Okay. So if number input value is not a number, or in the first condition of my end statement, then pass. Okay. The value of input number. Okay. Stewart.
Hello, sorry, Free Coco. StreamYard is obviously very sad with me today for whatever reason.
Everything's fine. Do you know what? Computers a little bit stressful. They can't actually hurt us.
This is true.
Wow, is it? Is it?
Yes.
So
Yes, it is.
here it's saying, I was really worried they were going to make us write regular expressions. But we can use this parse int, which turns something into a number. So I think does that feel right? So this is saying add a logical operator. So the bar, the pipe,
Right. Yeah.
and as after the first condition. So hey, if something's not a, if this value feels false, or if that passes, but I think we're probably not finished writing this.
No. So what that's doing is, when you call passing on it, remember that because we're just getting value, if you type a 0 into that box, that will not be falsy because it's a string with the digit 0 in it. It's not actually the number 0.
Because it's checking for, hey, is it null, not a number,
Yes.
or 0? And we actually want that 0. Okay. So, this is what I was going to say. So
Yeah.
we need to check if the value returned by parsin is a number or not. So, and we've got a not a number function. So
Yes.
we're going to wrap this in an NaN.
It is now.
Is NaN. Oh,
yeah, you're checking whether it is now. So nan means not a number. Parseint takes a string and gives you back the number that's in that string. So if you've got a string with the numbers 1, 2, 3 in it and call parseint on it, you'll get back the number 1, 2, 3. But if you call parseint on a string with the word Jess in it, that's not a number at all.
yeah.
So it gives you back the special magic value nan, which is not a number.
I was going to say exclamation point is nan, but that would be, is it not a number? And that's the opposite of what we need.
Correct.
I feel like everything's
the idea is we are constructing an if statement for all the things that someone could type into the box which are wrong. So there's 0 or the letter F or it's empty or whatever, because presumably, I'm assuming in the next step, now we've constructed our if statement with all the failure cases, we're gonna have it pop up a message saying type in a number or words to that effect.
Right?
Here we are.
We're gonna alert the alert. I can't remember if we've done this. This is gonna give us, so alert's like a little built-in modal, right? Because we learned about modals yesterday. Difficult one. How would you define a modal? I said it's like a pop-up type thingy?
So the point of a modal is that it's another little pop-up window which appears as part of or in front of your window. But what makes it modal is you can't do anything other than get rid of it. So a modal dialog, for example, when it appears, you have to deal with it, and it makes the rest of the page inactive. You can't use anything else on the page until you have said yes or go away or something on the modal dialog. If it doesn't have that, then it's not modal, it's just a dialog. So if you can pop up another window but then ignore that and carry on with what you were doing, that window is just a dialogue. If that window seizes the attention, then it's a modal dialogue. That's what makes it a modal dialogue.
So what we're doing here is saying, hey, we're checking to see if this is not illegal, not I mean in our domain legal. We're making sure that this is indeed a number. We're checking it two different ways. Then we're going to pop up this alert. And after we do that, we're going to add this return. And what the return is doing is keeping the code further down in the function from running.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're exiting the function at that point, which means that everything after this won't happen.
Cool. Okay, so this return is just like, look, just stop.
Yeah, you will hear some people sometimes call that early termination. So we could, for example, we want to check either did you type in something that isn't a number, or did you type in something that is a number? And obviously later on in this, we're going to, if you typed in a number, we're going to deal with it. So we could have an if statement with, did you type in something that wasn't a number? Give them an alert. Else, all the rest of the code. But what that tends to mean is you have a huge, great big long if statement which contains everything in your function. So instead, it's quite often useful to do checks at the top of a function. And then, so you're checking for failure cases. And you say, if it failed in this way, tell them what happened, return. If it failed in this way, tell them what happened, return. So it's basically do a check, bail out. Do a check, bail out. And then if you didn't bail out, you get onto the meat, the actual content of the function later on. And you could assume if you got to that point, it's because you got through all the failure checks without failing.
This is just, in as much as anything is just, this is a empty, so we're just an empty function. We're taking the input as a parameter, and we're fine. And I did go into that because like the learners have seen it. They're fine. Within our check user input, remove the console log. Oh no. And then call decimal to binary. Okay. So we use this console log to see what was going on. And now we don't need it. We think we could do a bunch of different things. Ha ha ha. So we're going to put decimal to binary. We're going to parse into an integer whatever we're passing in here. And what we're passing in here as an argument is number input dot value.
Correct. That's the way it wants you to do this. Yeah.
Way. I was very confident. That was just for.
So you will note there that we're calling a decimal to binary function, which we have not yet written.
Right.
And that's fine. If we actually run this code, it's going to fail because it will call a function that doesn't exist yet. But you can write the code and the page still works until it gets to that line. It doesn't break everything if you write some code which calls a function that doesn't exist, but you never get to the point of testing that.
Okay. I'm moderately, I mean, ecumenically, I'm not okay with that, but like, I believe you. We've got.
The point is your code does not have to be all entirely valid all the time. You can do a thing where you know it's not going to work.
I mean, every day.
On other bits, and it's fine.
We're setting the value of number input to an empty string. Very confident about that. Oh no. Okay, so binary numbers are wild. So, hey, I was going to be like, do you know what would be great is if my bestie Stuart was here because he is a maths nerd. Because like talking about number systems gets weird because we have we work on a decimal system like 10, 20, 100, 1,000. And binary is just a binary system.
Yeah, 0 and 1. There are only 2 digits.
So, yeah, I'm going to grab a...
Okay.
Just grabbing the Code Newbies bits and binary episode because binary is super conceptually interesting and difficult. And it didn't really make sense to me until I listened to this. I really like it. So it's a base 2 number system. Okay. So for computers, 0 is false or falsy, way, and 0 is 1 or truthy. Okay. Or on. Doesn't have to make sense now. It can't hurt us as long as we ignore it.
Yeah. The idea of this whole little project is we're building something which converts a number from decimal into binary. So we'll find out how it works as we go through the process.
In our decimal to binary, use the return keyword to return a string of the binary trump. Oh, to return a binary representation of the number true. And that's not a string one. That's the number one.
Almost right. When you're returning something, you just return a value. You don't want return equals 1.
Oh.
What that would do is it would try to create a variable called return and give it the value 1, and then it will give you an error because you're not allowed a variable called return.
I was so like, this is not like, this is a value, not a string. But it says down here, they're often represented as strings, huh?
Yes. And it actually says return a string of the binary number representation of true. Now,
okay, look.
It's just asking us to do this just to prove that we understand a little bit about binary. We're not going to use this return 1 thing here. But when we go on to the next step, it'll get us to delete that, I'm sure.
Yeah. So this is unfortunate because this is explaining more and more about base 2 versus base 10. And I might, so because we've got to sort of hustle along, I might leave this mysterious and troubling for learners to explore on their own. I really do recommend the Code Newbie podcast that I've dropped in. I'll drop it into the Discord as well. But I think that's important. Binary numbers are formed left to right, from the digit with the greatest place value on the left and the least significant on the right. Okay.
Yeah. So very briefly, in the same way that 123 is formed of the digits 1, 2, 3. That's 1 lot of 100, 2 lots of 10, 3 lots of 1. Binary numbers are the same way, except it's powers of 2. So the digit all the way on the right is 1 lot of 1. The digit next along is 1 lot of 2, then 1 lot of 4, 1 lot of 8, 1 lot of 16. So if you look at the 9 there, that's 1 lot of 1, 0 lots of 2, 0 lots of 4, or 1 lot of 8. So you've got 1 lot of 8 and 1 lot of 1, which is 9. But yes, this is something. So you want to convert the number 10 into binary. Now, remember, binary numbers are always made up of just zeros and ones.
Oh, yes. So
if you've got
that's...
a 2 in it, it's definitely not right.
I've been up since 4 this morning.
So that would be 1 lot of, so counting from the right-hand side, that would be 1 lot of 1, no lots of 2, 1 lot of 4, and 1 lot of 8, which would be 1 plus 4 plus 8, which is 13.
Stuart, what's the answer to this? I'm done.
To make 10 out of powers of 2, you want 0 lots of 1. So this is going from the right. You want 0 lots of 1, 1 lot of 2.
1 lot of 2.
Remember, we're counting from the right here, so you want to put the numbers in reverse order.
Oh, 0 lots of 3.
No. Remember, it's powers of 2, so 0 lots of 4.
0 lots of...
You want 1 lot of 8, 0 lots of 4, 1 lot of 2, and 0 lots of 1. So 1, 0, 1, 0.
Cool.
Someone, Eric asks why 1 in the previous exercise. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the fact they made us return 1 in a string in the previous exercise. It was just a test that we had the function set up. Right?
We'll talk about this with the question and answer. So I got you. I'm confident about this. I'm not confident about this. But Stuart's confident about this. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
fine.
I don't think you have to get binary to understand this. You'll need to understand binary to do the whole decimal to binary conversion, but you don't need it to understand the JavaScript. Excuse me.
And we're doing this so we don't have to. So I like this because it's teaching us some sort of foundational concepts around um, bits and bytes, which are super, super important. But because of the amount of time we have, we're probably going to like let folks think about this on their own. It is covered in the podcast I dropped. Um, and we can talk about this into um, uh,
Where do you want to talk about it? In Discord or
in
in?
Discord. Yeah, sorry. I was looking at the instructions and
Yeah.
despairing. In our decimal to binary function, convert the number 118 into binary with leading zeros and return it as a string.
So going through this relatively quickly, then, because it's something for people to read. How many lots of 100? So going through our numbers, how many lots of 128 are there in 118? Zero,
None.
right? So our first digit will be 0 in the thing that we're returning.
And that's
How
building
many?
this way.
Yeah. Sorry, no. Now we're going from the left, because if you look at the thing above, we've got 1,
Oh,
20,
yeah.
64, 30. So we're going downwards in the powers of 2.
Okay. This is still
So
cursed, but this is less cursed.
yeah.
So,
So how many lots of 64 are there? There is 1 lot of 64.
okay.
And then if we take that 64 away from our 118, what have we got left? And the answer is 54.
Okay. So
Um,
we also want one lot of 32, which leaves us
correct.
with.
Which will leave us with 22.
So we also want one lot of 16, which
Yeah,
leaves us with.
which will leave us with 6.
And then we want no eights.
Which will
We
still
want
leave us with 6.
1, 4,
Yeah, which will leave us
1,
with 2.
2,
Yeah,
and
which will leave
0.
us with 0, and then no ones.
Cool.
I believe that's correct. If we've done the conversion wrong, we'll do it again.
I want to be very clear about how much I hate this. I mean, a little bit less, but still.
Nice.
Now that
Bear in mind that the idea of this program is to do a decimal to binary converter and have the computer do it, which is the sort of thing computers are for. But this is proving we can do it by hand first. Like, why do we have a computer? This is what computers are for. So I don't have to do this kind of thing in my head. But obviously, in order to write code to do a thing, you have to understand how to do the thing.
Sorry. Now that you're familiar with binary numbers, it's time to finish building the function to do the conversion. We'll start off with a simpler solution first, then refactor it into the recursive solution. So recursion is so scary that Ramon warned us about it yesterday. The cool thing is we don't start to hit the recursive part until the 50s. So what we're going to do together and what y'all are going to, so we're going to leave you a blob of homework, but the homework's going to be like regular programming stuff that can't hurt us, mostly.
Well, so recursion is not that scary.
I mean, yeah, but like,
don't necessarily believe the hype on this. It does take a little bit of thinking about, but once you have thought about it, for problems that it's good at solving, it seems like the really obvious way to do it once you understand it. So
okay, but once you understand it,
we'll get to that point. It's fine, but don't worry about it too much. Don't be thinking, oh no, recursion is terrible. What a fearful thing. Not at all.
all right, that's Stuart volunteering that whenever you have recursion questions, I'll give out his
Sure.
his cell
Just
phone
send me a
number
message
in
on
the
Discord,
Discord.
and I will try to explain.
No. So remove the return statement, then declare variables. Oh, okay. This is fine. This can't hurt us.
Correct. you have the letter R there.
Input.
And remember, whenever you're declaring something, you want to declare what type of thing it is.
Const.
Is it a const or So the other thing is to explain why is this const rather than let, which I believe you talked about already, but it doesn't hurt to have a reminder.
By default, we've been using const most of the time, unless there's a reason to not.
Yeah. The key point is that you use let when you want to assign a value to something. And this, and I know I'm sure both Ramon and Jess have talked about this, but it's worthy of reiterating. We are going to be adding things to these inputs and quotients and remainders array.
But we're not going to reassign it.
Itself doesn't change, so it's still declared with const. It's not actually a problem if you declare it with let; it'll still work. So don't worry about this too much. But
I mean, your test won't work.
your test won't work, and FreeCodeCamp will whine at you. But the code will actually work if you use let there. But it's a good idea to not do that. So this is telling us to do a weird thing here, because obviously it's just because it's a step in FreeCodeCamp, but input is the thing that is passed into our function, and yet here we are assigning it a value, which will be a strange thing to do. You basically never do this in real code. You never get past a value and then just set it to something else, because why would you pass it in? Now, this is obviously just a test example, and what I suspect we're going to do here is set it to 0. So we pretend we were given the value 0, write the code to make that work, and then we'll start using the value that was passed in. But be aware that if you see yourself setting a value to one of the parameters you were passed into that function,
that's
weird. A weird thing to do. And you should think to yourself, why does that happen? Some of you, you might come across the term a code smell.
We haven't talked about that yet. Wait, stop. Okay. Learners, what do you think a code smell might mean, just based on what it's called? Sorry, I'm always mean. Because you were just like, I'll explain this concept. And I was like, no, let them struggle.
Okay.
Speaking of struggling, I think I might go ahead and get us ready to wrap up, because this while loop is something we've seen before. So this is as a reminder, we've done this before. And what's really, really brutal, what's cruel, what would never happen if Ramon was here is, and the big thing is, you do not have to do this all at once. This is not a big deal. We're going to be starting from 50. We'll start from 51 tomorrow. Yeah. So we'll do. We've got people guessing or telling us what code smells like. Now, Stuart, you are going to please. So let's judge what we think this code smells might be. But at the same time, folks, if you've got some questions or if you'd like any reassurances around recursion not hurting us, we'll do that. So we're going to leave you all of this middle stuff up until 51. And then we're going to jump in at 51. And then right around 56, we'll start looking at recursion tomorrow. This means you're doing a big chunk of this on your own. And that's just because there's a big chunk of this. We want to make sure we're spending most of our time on the new and hard parts with you. All right. I'm so sorry. Homework. Okay, so I will theatrically read this. Stuart, is a code smell the stank that comes when you spend too much time coding and forget to self-care?
That's not a code smell. However, it is a problem, and self-care is important, and you should bear that in mind.
That is so sweet, where you're just like, it's not quite, but don't. And so the code itself smells funky, like something when you like get up close to the code, it just feels off. Oh,
yes, that's a good description. It's something where you see something in the code and you think, that's weird. Why would that happen? Now, there might be a reason to happen, but the reason it's called a code smell is because it's not necessarily indicative that something is off in your fridge at the moment, but you smell something weird and you think, maybe I should look more closely at this. And that's where the term comes from.
So I like Kristen, because Kristen said this really well. Like, when you open a milk container, it smells funny. Sometimes you're like, oh, this is wrong. And sometimes you're like, oh, this is kombucha.
Right.
It's not always. And Starlight points out that it is an ancient and serious tone for bad vibes.
Kind of, but lots of stuff.
Bad vibes.
Lots of stuff is vibes. It doesn't narrow it down that much, but yeah.
All right.
Those are good those are good descriptions. It's something where if you see a thing happen, see something which is described as a code smell happening in code, you should be thinking to yourself, that's strange. I wouldn't expect that to happen. Why has that happened? I should look at this again. So if you find yourself, if you ever see someone declaring a variable but without using const or let.
Oh no, he's frozen. Oh no. Oh no. Stuart, I can't deal with this kind of suspense. Luckily, we'll wait for him to come back and I will answer these questions on my own. It's a non-zero chance they'll be wrong, but I'm excited to be wrong. Philip says, hey, back when we were first setting up the function for check user input, why was that an empty arrow function? Philip, excitingly, that was empty because we were going to write it in the next couple of steps. And Eric's like, this is such a good question. This is such, I'm gonna take Stuart away just because he's making a very pondery face. So Eric points out that we returned 1. Can somebody remind me in what step that was? Wasn't step 18. Because this is when we were I was starting to spiral a little bit. When we were first talking about binary. Stuart, I'm answering a question super fast.
Yep.
Everything's fine. You stopped at the most dramatic point. I loved it, where you were like, it's like if you see someone declare a variable, but without using const or let, and then and the learners will back me up here. You had like a very, very noble and serious face, and I have never frozen on a noble and serious face before.
Okay. My apologies. It's
No.
obviously decided it doesn't like me today.
So Eric's saying, hey, on step 18, we returned 1. But what's that about? That's not binary. Like, that's not a binary representation of stuff. So binary is wild. So binary can be used to, you can write R base 10 numbers, the numbers you use every day. You can write them in binary. And we tried those in the other steps. But binary, the 1 or a 0 can also mean true or false. And you can render letters in binary. So binary is just a weird, binary is a number system. Binary, stop that. I don't like that video thing. Binary is a number system. Binary is a true, false, or on and off system, but it's also sort of a way you can render different characters or words. Is that fair?
Sort of. So as you say, we talked about things that are falsy, and one of the things that are falsy is the digit 0. All other numbers are truthy. So 1 is truthy, but 5 is also truthy, and 5,000 is also truthy. And so you can think of 0 as being false and 1 as being true. So when they said to us, return the string value of the binary representation of true, what that was saying was true is a Boolean, but the binary representation of that would be the number 1, and then we make a string out of that. Now, if Eric's question was why at this point in the code camp was it asking us to do that, because we were never going to use that, then I agree with you. I thought that was a little bit confusing myself, to be honest with you. I think they wanted a step in there to say return something, and they thought, I know, why don't we test them on whether they understand this true and false stuff at the same time? But it felt a bit out of place to me there as well, to be honest.
We have a Stuart specific question, which is Stuart, I see that you're a guest on the Liberator.
Yes.
What is that?
So last time my background picture was Doctor Who. This time it was a show called Blake.
Oh, I see.
And the Liberator was the ship on the Liberator was the ship in Blake 7. So that's where my background is this time. Yes.
Oh, I thought this was like, Stuart, I see that you're on this fancy podcast, or you're this conference.
No fancy podcast for me this week.
More space dork stuff. Loving space.
This is more desktop background nerdery.
So everybody's homework, and Stuart, like, gut check me to see if this seems fair. So, folks' homework, if you've got tons and tons of time, you're caught up, and we do not expect for people to be caught up. Try and do some of this until you hit the 50s. If you don't have a ton of time, go ahead and start looking at these steps. I'd encourage you to try them, but even if you don't fully understand, just type out what you think might work and then go to the next step. We're just going to look at them to preview them if you can. So we're a big fan of like, you don't have to do your homework. You can do it next week. You can do it next year. But these are new concepts. We'd really recommend just looking at these steps and trying to see what happens between 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Right? That's fair.
because at this point, some of you at least are learning two things at once. You're not only learning how to write a program which converts decimal to binary, but you're also learning how to convert decimal to binary. And the hardest part of this process could well be the learning about the binary stuff rather than the how to express that in JavaScript code.
And don't forget that a lot of our learners have stacked an additional level of complexity. So they're learning this in their second or third or fourth languages, which is so impressive. Couldn't be me.
Yeah, and around a job or your other studies or whatever it is you're doing. So yes, there's that's a lot to take on, but the idea behind the free code camp thing is it will work you through it step by step. So the key point here is to because of the way this boot camp is, if you're following what the JavaScript is doing and you're sort of taking the binary stuff on trust, you'll probably be fine, right? This is not a boot camp to learn about different number bases. There will be boot camps about that, and they would be interesting boot camps.
But
yeah,
so and I kind of cheated where I'm like, Stuart, just give me the answer for the binary thing. If you don't get binary at all at the end of this, I like
doesn't matter.
How many times has convert this into binary come up in your professional career? Is
Well,
it never?
I will. It's not never. It's quite a lot. But I'll tell you a
What?
secret, which is that we are implementing a thing here to do this the hard way, so we understand the process and how to do recursion and so on and so forth. But there is actually a function in JavaScript which just does this for you. So
Is it like two binary or something? That's what I would call it.
Yes. So the idea of converting stuff into binary, I've done quite a bit. The idea of actually writing something which does it line by line, I've never had to do because this is what computers are for, as previously discussed. They're meant to do the heavy lifting so we don't have to. But this is about learning how to do something as part of a process. So the actual thing you will have learned at the end of this is not really about how to convert numbers into binary. You'll never need to do that. But it is about how to structure a program to do this kind of stepwise task and how to do that with recursion.
So is it just like that?
Is it like what?
Oh, I'm not showing my screen, am I? No. Oh.
I can try and divine what it's like if you like.
Is it actually two binary?
It is not.
Oh, what's it called?
Converting. So you can convert if you've got a binary string. We used parseint before. So you can parseint a binary number back into an ordinary number with parseint as well, as long as you tell it which base it's in.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Hang on, you got to show your screen. We can't see you.
No. I'm deliberately not sharing my screen because I'm looking up very quickly whether how you convert something to binary,
right?
Rather than from it. I know how to do it by hand. Yes, thank you. Can I just put 0b in front of it? Oh, .toString2. Yeah, that's how you do it. Right. Yes. So. So yes, you can convert something to binary with toString.
Okay.
So I will just test this very briefly.
I love how you're like, I'm going to do this off stage. And I'm just like, doop, doop, doop. Truly, one of us is wise while one of us is brave.
Yeah, I was right. Yeah, cool. Right.
See, I'd be right all the time if I was doing stuff backstage.
Yeah, well, And again,
Show
I
us
mean,
so
this is probably
fast.
something that's worth very briefly stressing. I'm not a font of all the answers. I'm just quick at looking it up because I've got some experience, so I know where to look. Right? No one remembers all this stuff. I look things up all of the time. So I can share my screen to show you how to do
Yeah.
binary conversion in one line if you'd like.
Yes, please. Because, like,
Okay.
obviously, Free Code Camp is having us do this so that we learn
Yes.
problem solving, that we learn about recursion. It's not sadism, but it's not if there's a one-line magic built-in way to do this. Tina
Yeah.
makes a good point. Like last time, well, a couple projects ago, we did projects about like the 1989 Argentinian football team. And we didn't have to
Oh, really?
actually I think it was
Maradona in that
1989.
crowd.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, so apparently Stuart knows everything about the actual content of all of our projects. So Stuart will be taking my place for the rest of the boot camp.
I certainly will not. So can you see my screen?
I can't, not until you haha, there we go.
Right. So you should be able to see that now. Yes. So if I, where are we? I'll tell you what. I'll just do it in the console. So,
Oh, we can't see the console because you've shared your tab, not your window. That's
oh,
okay. It's
I'm so
computers.
incompetent. Hang on. Present. I thought I'd done it this time and I didn't. How poor. So I want that one. There we go. So if I share my screen there, clear the console and drag that up to get it out of the way. Can you see that okay?
No. Yes.
Okay, so that
Can you
writing,
embiggen it a little?
okay, that's exactly what I was just doing. That writing is very, very small. How do I make all the settings go away like that? Right, okay.
Right.
So if I do console.log 35, it just logs 35. If I put it in brackets and do toString 2.
What's the 2?
So the 2 is because we want to convert it to binary.
To
So
binary base 2.
Now, so when you can see in some browsers, you get a little bit of help here when you're typing something. So here, if I type dot, then it will show me all the different options I can do. And one of them is toString. And I'm calling toString as a function like that. But if I type the opening one, it tells me what I can provide a parameter. And that parameter is a radix, which is the number that the base is. So decimal numbers are base 10. So they are radix 10. So if I convert this, if I convert the number 35 to a base 10 number, I'll get 35.
35.
Which I do because it already is a base 10 number. That's what decimal means. If I want to convert it to a base 2 number, binary, I'll just hit 2. There it is.
I mean,
so this whole exercise is this one line, but that's okay.
I think that's a lot of learning to program as like, oh, I'm going to build this very complicated, and then later on they'll be like, oh, cool. I've just discovered there was a faster, simpler way to do this.
Yeah.
But your way will not teach us recursion and will not build character.
Correct. Knowing that this kind of thing exists is useful. And there are all sorts of online resources that will tell you about that kind of thing. There's MDN out there and lots and lots of others.
Wait. Can you put a minus in front of the 135 just to see? Because Lisa's question is such a good question. You're gonna have to scroll up. I'm so sorry. Which is I don't know if you can. Lisa, I'm gonna hide your comment.
Or not?
Can
well, there you go.
Sort of. So yes, sort of. Oh, I mean, conceptually, that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just the number with minus sign in front of it. Those of you who are very computer literate will be thinking, is that not a 2's complement number? The answer is no. No, it isn't. Don't worry about that. Those of you who have no idea what I've just said, you don't need to worry about that either.
No, Stuart's just making up new words. It's fine.
But you can convert negative numbers into binary, as you've seen.
Hey, before you introduce a new maths concept, I'm going to lovingly say goodbye to you. Goodbye, Stuart, and goodbye to all our learners. Bye, my loves.
Goodbye.